This is the Pipkin and Turnbull Show. It is October 23rd, 2019, episode number 3. How we doing tonight, Mr. Turnbull?
Doing great, man. How about you?
I am doing awesome. And you've got the sniffles
Good, good.
tonight, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty bad.
We
Try
got
not to sneeze too much.
That's right. Got to get those we got to get those essential oils going like
Mm-hmm.
stat. All right, so we got an awesome
Oh
show
yeah.
ahead of us. Jamie, can you give us the rundown of what we're going to be talking about tonight?
All right, man. I got a look at the NFL power rankings, and then we're gonna move on, and we're gonna two quarterbacks for two pretty popular teams went down last weekend. So we're gonna talk about that and the effect that Mahomes and Tua have for their teams. We're going to look at the opening night for the NBA, Lakers and Clippers, and then coaching. There's a little incident where coach tugged on a player's face mask last weekend, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna see, you know, what's going too far. It's gonna be a good show.
All right, so let's get into it. So let's talk about where we are at in kind of where we were looking at week 7, kind of week 6's NFL power rankings. As of course, still we're looking at the best team in football, which would be the New England Patriots, and I don't think you could make a strong argument against that fact at this point of the season.
I mean, Brady's looking like he's slowing down, but as I tell people, Brady every year Brady will have a bad game, and everybody will say, "Well, he's slowing down. That age is catching up to him," and then he's hoisting the Lombardi at the end of the season. So, I mean, Brady will have games where he shows his age, but obviously with the Patriots being 6-0, I mean, he's fine. He's playing the way he's going to play. The defense for the Patriots are one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they're number one for 6 weeks now, 7 weeks now.
For a
That's just
reason.
how it
And
is. So
yeah,
yeah.
and like I think we even mentioned this like episode 1 that the scary thing is their defense is like
Hmm.
straight up just have not they're still on only allowing 2 touchdowns still
Hmm.
and just crazy stats what they've been putting up on defense.
Yeah.
So it's a scary New England's team. Like all the
Yeah.
props to them. Another team that is up there and still is rolling. And you made a great point before we came on about the New Orleans Saints sticking at number
Mm-hmm.
2. Why are they still at
Mm-hmm.
number 2 in your mind?
Teddy Bridgewater, man, and I mean it's hard to hate the New Orleans Saints, because it's the Drew Brees team. Everybody loves the city of New Orleans, and so it's just not one of those teams that you look at and you're just like, man, I hate that team. It's not the Cowboys or the Raiders, and so it's just hard to hate them. And then when Drew Brees goes down, you're like, well, okay, maybe if they can, get a couple wins while he's away, and they can stay in the playoff push. But I don't know if they've lost a game since Brees has went down. Teddy he stepped in, he's filled that role. I remember in the offseason there was talk that he was going to go to Miami, and start, and he's stuck in New Orleans, and everyone's like, well, why would you do that? We're seeing why, because he likes New Orleans, he likes the team, he's learning from one of the best quarterbacks there is, and they're sticking it out at 6-1 right now without Drew Brees.
Yeah, and
So
then on top
that's
of his
great.
performances, the offense, were able to put up, 36 points. Um,
Yeah.
against a really tough, amazing Bears defense that's been kind of
Hmm.
off and on these last couple of weeks, which has been kind of surprising to a lot of
Yeah.
people. A lot of people, meaning me, just from where where you saw them to week 1 till now. But
Hmm.
yeah, so that I mean that's a great point with New Orleans is the biggest point is this team is still great without Drew Brees, and then when you bring Drew Brees back, it's hard
Yeah.
to say that it won't be a New England and Saints Super Bowl at this point
Yeah.
in the season. Um, who
Yeah.
are there any other teams that stood out to you this week?
Not the Jets, that's for sure.
your
I gotta
your
go with my
prediction
Chiefs.
your prediction did not
Yeah.
carry out, man. Big old
Oh man.
upset.
Yeah, that was I I'm never gonna go with the Jets again. All right. I did it once. I told
Man,
everybody live on here that
man.
I was going to the Jets, and
Yes.
then y'all don't even score a touchdown. So yeah, one and done there. But for me, it's the Chiefs. My Chiefs, as you can tell, um, I thought Denver would at least, tear up that defense, and the defense stood up. And
Did.
Denver's not a very good team, but neither is the Chiefs defense. And then when Mahomes went down, like the defense stood up. And man, I was so impressed, and so I had to put him back in the top five because I just last it was just a good game. Like I'm still smiling from that game. Yeah, after losing two in a row, I'm still smiling. So that was my surprise team last week.
Yeah, because they I don't Denver didn't score at all, right? It was a zero. Did they put up a goose egg or did they score a field goal? I can't remember.
They scored a touchdown on their first drive,
Oh, okay.
and then yeah, they didn't score for the
Nothing.
rest of the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the week before we were talking about just teams basically doing whatever they want, and
Yeah.
so it was a good turnaround, definitely for that Chiefs defense.
Yeah.
Uh, but one of the things, one of the things I wanted to bring up is right now, the only teams that I could see, um, kind of as like this weird unknown are these NFC North teams, and that's with the
Mhm.
Vikings. You've got the Packers, you've got the Bears, and you've got the
Mhm.
Lions. I mean, you have four stellar teams at this point in the season um, with really, I mean, and that's where I mean, kind of where that Bears law, the Saints kind of going into the Bears were kind of surprising to me, but
Mhm.
overall, this NFC North is getting stronger, especially with
Mhm.
Minnesota starting to come on here late. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers, for the first time ever, has a perfect QBR this past week. The first
Yeah.
time he has ever done that in his career, and
Which I
so
thought was crazy.
yeah,
I thought he would have had a couple. Like I have that was a crazy stat for me to find out last weekend was that this was his first. It was crazy.
yeah, and that was, I mean, um, it was against. Let me see. It was against. He got this against the Raiders. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, and for me, this whole NFC North, I would love to see this year out of the NFC. I would love to see three NFC North teams in the playoffs. I think at this point, I don't know who's three that would be. Um,
mm,
if I had to pick on this week 7 basis, um, it would probably end up being the Packers and Vikings for sure. And then that third team between the Lions and the Bears. Surprisingly, I'm really liking what the Lions are doing. They have
mhm.
had a really couple of hard losses, but overall, the
Yeah.
direction that team is heading towards, I think, um, is really it's really turning around in Detroit, and so
Mhm.
some Lions fans have a lot to look forward to from what they're seeing from
Mhm.
their Lions.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
Yeah. So that was a look at some of the power rankings, a couple of the teams that we're seeing. Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, some other who are some teams that you'd like us to talk about, or that we need to think of moving forward into this playoff picture, and teams that are coming on. So let us know
Yeah.
what you're thinking with these power rankings. So the next topic, two QBs go down. And so the two quarterbacks that we will mention are huge in both the NFL and the college world. So
Mm.
Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa, actually got injured in the game against Tennessee. He had a high ankle sprain. Uh, and then Patrick Mahomes from Chiefs Kingdom, as you can see in the background, uh, he dislocated his kneecap, and it was pretty crazy watching them pop his kneecap back in on the field to play, and then he just kind of walks it off. And so every Chiefs fan loves seeing Mahomes actually walking that off because it was pretty
Yeah.
crazy. So there are huge implications for these quarterbacks going down. And what's scary for the Chiefs, to me, when I'm looking at this, is really in the next two games. You have the Packers and Minnesota both coming up. And is it the Packers coming up? I think our
Yeah.
first
Sunday night.
yeah, Sunday night this week. They've got the
Hmm.
Packers with Matt Moore. I don't know why I did. You hear that little laugh? I laughed as
Yeah.
that came out. Um, but we hope that unlike some times in the past where we've seen some backup quarterbacks from the Chiefs, that Matt Moore will be able to do something with his offense. But luckily for the Chiefs and Alabama's fans, we're kind of looking at some best case scenarios for both injuries.
Yes.
Uh, so
Mhm.
uh, if the Chiefs can manage the best case scenario is 2 wins over the next 3 weeks. That the Chiefs, but I don't know if I could solidly pick them. Winning 2 out of 3 for the next couple of weeks. That's gonna be really tough. So
Yeah.
yeah, I but I don't, they they still, um, gosh, it's gonna be rough if they are at what 5-4 when Mahomes gets back.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. I mean, Mahomes. I call it the Mahomes effect because since the Chiefs, drafted him and I've seen him play, I look at other quarterbacks and I'm just like, man, Mahomes does that better. Mahomes does that better. Mahomes does that better. And now I got to see a different quarterback, and I was like, man, this is gonna be rough. And so, and Mahomes' stats this year speak for themselves. He's got 2,000 yards. He got hurt in the before halftime in the game last Thursday, and he still leads the NFL in passing yards, which is crazy. He leads by 10 because I think Matt Ryan has 2,170, where Mahomes has 2,180. He's got 15 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a rating of 113.1. Um, you know, he he's a good quarterback. I mean, and for any Chiefs fan that thinks that the offense is going to run exactly how he runs it is, fooling themselves because it's not. The Chiefs are going to have to, pull out that Alex Smith playbook and run those plays. You're not going to have the long bombs with Matt Moore. You're going to have to dink and dunk up the field and score, protect the ball, run the ball. And that's what they're going to have to do. But Patrick Mahomes, when he got injured Thursday, he looked at Andy Reid and said, "I'm good. I want to go in." Like That's he. Like he just had his kneecap dislocated, and he looks at his head coach and says, "Yeah, I want to go back in." Like obviously he didn't, but Mahomes also did practice today,
Right.
and Andy Reid has not ruled him out for Sunday, which I think is crazy. They haven't even told Matt Moore that he's starting, and this could just be a tactic to where the Packers have
Right.
to still
Right.
study, Mahomes.
Mahomes.
They have to
Yeah.
study Matt Moore. You have to prepare for two quarterbacks. That could
Right.
be the tactic they're running for. I don't think Mahomes is going to play Sunday, but I could
Yeah.
see him playing
You
against
can't.
Minnesota.
You can't play him. You really can't. I mean,
I mean,
because part of it is too is if he can get off this knee and recuperate
mm,
that ankle. I mean, that's the
mm,
other aspect of this
mm,
because there was definitely a lot wrong with the ankle since the Jacksonville
yep,
game, and so that's
yep,
the other That is the other the good thing, quote unquote, the good thing about this injury
yeah,
is that he can kind of rest up and heal that ankle. So
yeah, yeah,
there is I mean, obviously you want to win every game that you can during an NFL
mm,
season, but the there's there's too much downside if you
yeah,
make him play. So I mean,
yeah,
but that is, I mean, that's interesting, and I think it is a
mm,
good tactic of the Chiefs not to really name Matt Moore,
mm,
but obviously, I think, I think, yeah, it's going to be Matt
mm.
Moore.
And I also want to point out the head trainer said he's midway through his rehab. He got hurt 6 days ago, 7 days ago, and he's midway through now. Like I I don't see him playing this Sunday, but I can definitely see him playing next against the Vikings. I just don't think he's human. I mean,
What happens though? Let's just say this scenario: what
yeah.
if they pull a win against the Packers? Do you still bring him back, or do you still want him to heal up? If you manage a win against the Packers, do you wait for him to heal up, or let's say they lose, do and then they feel like you've got to bring him back in because they're going to get into shootouts. I really feel like the
Hmm.
Packers Chiefs is going to be a shootout. Like
Yeah.
unless they've just really that defense has found something. I mean,
Yeah.
Frank Clark actually looked like Frank Clark against the Broncos, which is a good sign.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so
I I'm glad I don't get paid to make those decisions because if they lose against the Packers, you with how the AFC West is kind of like the Raiders, like the rest of the AFC West lost last weekend.
right,
Um, but the Raiders are only 2 games back, I believe, and so every game at this point is a must win. And so, I mean, you gotta be careful because do you want him back for a couple games this season and then he injures it worse, or do you want him for the next 10 plus years? And so I think that it's gonna because if Mahomes had his way, he'd play. Like I know how he is. Like he's a warrior, and he just doesn't like not playing. Um, but he's gonna have to trust the athletic trainers, and if they just see just a little bit of that knee, and they just have a little bit of doubt, or if
don't
they
play
see a
him.
little bit of
Don't
doubt
play him.
in that in him in his eyes, if he steps on that knee and he buckles just a little bit, you don't play him.
No,
Like
I if
you hold him
yeah
out and you say, all right,
you
well,
yeah you can't you can't risk Mahomes for
no.
as hard as it is this season. Because there's still so many other variables that the Chiefs have to
Mm-hmm,
fix right now, and
mm-hmm,
I think as a fan looking at this Chiefs team right now, do you put everything in on this year if Mahomes isn't right? I mean,
yeah.
that's a hard
That's
call.
the that's a question me and a lot of Chiefs fans have talked about. Like, do we just kind of see how we do this year, or do we just go all out? And if we go all out, at what cost? We could, he could come back and play, but we're looking at an RG3 thing where like he once RG3 he was playing on that injured leg and he was never the same after. And so a lot of Chiefs fans are like it's two different injuries, but I still look at it as he played injured. He wasn't the same after. And I don't want that for Mahomes. Like I would rather sit out the Green Bay game, the Minnesota game, the Tennessee game, and we have a bye after Tennessee, and then I think we play Oakland, or we play the Chargers bye then Oakland. But we got
Right.
a bye coming, and I would
Well,
much rather the Chiefs let rest him and then come after the bye and just because then we've got Oakland, we've got New England, we've got Chicago. After that bye, the season gets really really rough for us, and I would much rather win loss and then how he's doing after the bye.
yeah,
But
and also from this perspective is these next 2 weeks are NFC teams, and at the
mm-hmm,
end when you're looking at these records, the AFC wins, and especially your division wins, have a lot more weight than if you lost to the Packers and the Vikings.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
at the end of the day, so for me, I don't think you play them for the Packers or the Vikings. I just think
yeah,
you just go with what you got, and then you think about Tennessee. But then
yeah,
at that point, if Matt Moore's playing well, then the best case scenario is that Matt Moore does enough to show that he's ready for Tennessee.
yeah,
Like I think that's the best case scenario because I really don't think that they'll get these wins against the Packers and the Vikings because of just
yeah,
how much Mahomes does for that team. I mean,
yeah,
and if you get into these shootout battles with either of these teams, I there's nobody like Mahomes that can keep up with that. But
yeah.
the
We
not
saw that in the Monday night game against the Rams.
yeah.
You know, so
And the nice
it's
thing
the
is
Mahomes
that
effect.
yeah, it's a nice thing that Tyreek Hill is back. So I mean that is a
Yes.
big asset to this whole
Mm-hmm,
team and what they're doing. And it really does give you a
mm-hmm,
good shot um, against if these shootouts do come, if it does
yeah,
come out to play like that. So
yeah,
the other injury was Tua Tagovailoa for
mm.
Alabama during the Tennessee game. Like Tua. Everybody in Alabama at this point is like, I will give you my ankle so that Tua can play. Like no questions asked. Like you can have my ankle. It's all good, Tua, because
yep.
like his ankles have been like toothpicks, man. Like you can't like as soon as Tua gets hit or anything like that, it looks horrible every time he gets hit, and like every
Yeah.
Alabama fan's like holding their breath. But thankfully, there's another best case scenario with Tua's injury. It looks like he'll be out for about 10 days. So Alabama has Arkansas coming up. And if Alabama can't get past Arkansas without Tua, then we really have no business probably thinking national championship this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the good news is that it happened now because Tua he'll have this rest that he has now, like he'll have this week, and then Alabama actually has a bye week after the Arkansas game before the LSU game. So
That's good.
he's almost got about 3 weeks before that ankle gets tested against LSU, which is going to be
Mm-hmm.
another we say game for the century. It really will be another game for the century because at that point they'll probably
Mm-hmm.
be 1-2 like they are now. It's going to be a 1-2 uh, playing for that playoff spot. So, but it's scary because I mean when you think about Patrick Mahomes and Tua, I mean your whole team dynamic does revolve around these two guys, and so it is kind of it's not like a Saints scenario. Like they like
Yeah.
like neither team are set up kind of right. I mean that's what Tua has meant to this Alabama team is he's
Mm-hmm.
gotten us out of so many. His talent alone has gotten out of so many different instances that we should have lost some games. But um, But at the same time, we have three NFL caliber wide. Alabama has three NFL caliber wide receivers. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, that'll help.
yeah. So yeah. So those are kind of the two major injuries uh, that we're seeing, and the hard thing is once these guys do come back, is that with the same injuries, you always do play into this factor of do you make it worse? But I mean that's
Yeah,
for any injury.
yeah,
But that's why the Chiefs really do need to take their time on this injury with Patrick Mahomes.
yeah,
Alabama, it's kind of college football. You kind of gotta put all your chips in for every game. But
yeah,
you know, if the even if, like I said, even if the Chiefs lose the next two games and manage a win against Tennessee after that bye week, and then let Mahomes comes in,
mm,
I think that would be the best case scenario, just so that he gets healthy.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you want a healthy Mahomes for the playoff push, and that's what
yeah,
that after that bye week will mean for him.
yeah. I agree.
Okay. Yeah. So another thing happened last night. NBA opening night happened. We had the Raptors and the Pelicans play. The Raptors pulled out that win.
Yeah,
And we also had the Lakers and the Clippers play. So the NBA had a amazing opening matchup for us this year.
hmm,
And it really did kind of, to me, it was a good game.
mm,
Especially, you know, and going into the fourth quarter, it was all tied, kind of going back and forth,
yeah.
teams showing what was kind of going down. Um, do you so what are your initial thoughts of this Lakers and Clippers matchup?
I mean, we saw the first battle for LA, you know, and like I said a couple weeks ago, the one of the LA teams are going to be in the NBA finals, and right now the Clippers are looking like the better one. You know, that's going to change. I mean, it's week one, and so they play like 82 games, so you know things are going to change. But right now, I the Clippers are the better team, and I still like the Raptors. I thought the Raptors would take a step back without Kawhi, but they look fine. And so, um, you know, there's not much. You can't really over analyze week one because it's week one, and so. But I think the better teams won yesterday,
Yeah.
and so
Here's
it
what
was definitely interesting, though.
Yeah, here's what I will say is that I I honestly thought the Lakers without Paul George, this was a great opportunity to make your statement of who the LA Lakers are going to be this year.
Yeah.
But what we forgot is the importance of depth in the NBA. And the
Hmm.
Lakers do not have depth. It is
Yeah.
LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And if that game plan does not work, that
Hmm.
team loses. And that's what
Yeah.
started happening in the fourth quarter is you've got these two guys trying to will this LA team to win. Now with Kyle Kuzma coming back, that may change up some of that dynamic,
Yes.
but the Clippers depth,
Hmm.
man, I mean the how great they were on defense, switching up on LeBron. With Patrick Beverly being able to get on LeBron and do actually a pretty good job of sticking on him because LeBron
Yeah.
only and and points aren't everything because LeBron distributes all over the place and makes everybody around him
Hmm.
better. But he ended up only with 18 points. But I don't know when you know for the long term if they can't get shooting from some of the other players from the Lakers. I mean their depth looks I mean, it does not look good because the Clippers
Hmm.
also had Paul George out, you
Yeah.
know, and so imagine when you have a healthy Paul George who is also a great defender back on that Clippers
Hmm.
team. That's a scary team, and I hadn't realized how scary that team would be until I saw them
Mm.
play last night. And I know I'm probably overhyping game one, but you
Yeah.
think but you're thinking about future wise and some of the what you'll be able to do with the pieces that they
Mm-hmm.
have. The Clippers, I mean, when they get Paul George back, that's going to be scary,
Yeah.
especially defensively. But
Oh yeah.
what's good for this the Lakers side is how big they are, and that's what kind of
Mm-hmm.
proved itself against what we're seeing against these smaller lineups is they proved super effective against like a goal, and it was preseason, but
Mm-hmm.
Golden State wasn't able to do really anything because of just the size difference. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of teams, like if you look at the Rockets and some other teams like that, are just going to struggle with the Lakers' size.
Yeah.
But the Clippers and their depth really were able to match up to LA's size. And the Clippers may be the only team that can do that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the size of the Lakers are going to be their biggest advantage. Uh,
Oh yeah. I
but
agree with that.
that that's what was important too with the Hassan Whiteside signing that Portland ended up with. So Portland,
Mm-hmm.
you look at their backcourt with C.J. McCollum and I just had his name in my head. Um, Damian
Can't think
Lillard.
of it.
Damian Lillard.
Oh.
And then
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
Hassan Whiteside. So I mean, Portland. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the West that really added a lot of depth, but that Clippers defense, I think, can hold up against every team.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I only feel the Lakers where's that scoring going to come from if LeBron and AD start going cold? That's kind of my biggest.
Yeah.
That's kind of the biggest question that the Lakers will have throughout this year. If what happens to that court when they leave? So
I think
that's what's crazy.
Once Kuzma comes back, I think they'll be able to do more. Because I mean Kuzma's a pretty good player, but I think right now, yeah, it's just gonna be LeBron and Davis, and they're gonna hurt for it. But and I wouldn't put it past them to add some more guys, and start really kind of looking around and trading and stuff like that. Because I mean, LA knows that they've got a team that can go to the finals. It's just I was looking on Twitter, and a couple Lakers fans was like, we're missing one thing. We don't know. They couldn't kind of put their finger on it, like what they're missing, but they know they're missing something, and so LA's gonna figure it
Yeah.
out. You know.
Well, and what's exciting about this year in the West is that the talent has kind of spread throughout a ton of teams. And that's what's going to make kind of the NBA fun is like you don't have 3-man super teams. You're kind of getting
Yeah.
these 2-man squads with some really key like who are your key aspects of your team? Are you going to go with size? Are you going to go with shooting? Are you going to go with speed? Um, so that's what's really cool about the NBA this year. Uh,
Yeah.
and
I
for
agree.
me, the interesting thing is I have no idea is we're gonna have to wait a couple of weeks to start predicting these East teams because
Hmm.
I have no idea. Like you could, I mean, the three right now that the top three would be Milwaukee, Boston, and probably the Philadelphia. Um,
Yeah.
is where I would kind of go with you with your top three teams from the East. But the yeah, it's going to be interesting to see some some other unknown teams from the East that could make some noise this year is like an Atlanta Hawks team.
Hmm.
Uh, to see with Jimmy Butler going to the Heat, like if the Heat will be able to make any
Hmm.
noise this year. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty
He's
excited.
not playing. They have their opening night tonight, and he's not playing for personal reasons. But Tyler Hero, let's keep an eye on him because Hero, I think
Yeah.
he's kind of like um, I think he's gonna be really good, and so Don't sleep on my Miami Heat. Don't sleep on them just
Don't
yet.
sleep on the Heat yet.
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, so yeah, even like last year into this year, the NBA is kind of getting into where it's starting to spread this talent out, which is
Hmm.
exciting because next year you'll have Brooklyn and KD will come back with Kyrie, so that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what Brooklyn will be up to with Kevin Durant coming back, and so yeah, so I'm kind of liking how this NBA season's starting to look because I was for the first time in a long time, I was excited for an opening night of an NBA game.
Yeah.
And it did live up. I mean, it was a good game. That LA Clippers was a good game. And
It was.
Kawhi's coming, man. Kawhi's
Mm.
coming.
Yeah.
um
Yep.
so last thing we're gonna get into tonight is coaching. Where are the boundaries between coach and player interaction on the sidelines? And so where this topic kind of there's been some a little bit of talking and just kind of wanted to see where we both stood on this issue. So during the Alabama and Tennessee game, Tennessee had the ball on the 1 yard line going into score. The team hurries up to the line and it looks like they're going to set up for a QB sneak. What happens is Jarrett Garantano pulls ball, tries to go over the top. He fumbles it. The Alabama defender, the cornerback, scoops the ball up for a 100 yard TD return, which was a big moment in the game because it had been kind of actually up and down for Alabama, and that kind of sealed the game for Bama. Uh, what happens next is the quarterback, Jarrett Garantano, goes to the sideline, and Jeremy Pruitt, the coach of Tennessee, tugged on his face mask and obviously was getting grilled by a couple of the coaches. Now, rightly so for being grilled because they actually wanted to do a run play at the goal line. If you see the
Mm.
replay, the left guard actually pulls out. And that's where Sean Lee, the middle linebacker for Alabama, goes into the hole and causes that fumble because Jarrett Garantano is trying to go over the top, which causes the fumble. So it was actually they were trying to get a run play out of that scenario, and so Jeremy Pruitt comes back on and kind of was like, it was either a more or less up to the quarterback to do a sneak or a run, which was kind of weird that you would leave up that kind of play to your quarterback to make that decision. But
Mm.
when you've got a lineman a pulling guard, that obviously means that the line was thinking that they were going to run.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, but based on Jeremy Pruitt's um, post game, he said it was kind of an either option for the quarterback or it being a run play, which was kind of weird. You shouldn't at the 1 yard line. You should just either be like, we're going to sneak it or run it. Like,
Yeah.
don't leave it into your offensive hand to try to make a decision on the line like that. But obviously, the O line thought it was going to be a run because you would never have your
Yeah.
guard pull on a quarterback sneak, and that's what
No.
it. I mean, the play had no shot if Garantano was trying to go. Like, there's no hope if you're going to pull a guard. Like, you're just going to shoot that gap immediately as that ball, and that's what
Yeah.
happened. He shot that gap. That ball was fumbled, and so and that was what led into the grilling of the quarterback. So my big thing was is is Jamie and I do come from the last era of old school coaching. Um,
Yes.
we were part of the last era of two a days. Actually, I was talking to some
Hmm.
high schoolers, and they don't even have to do two a days anymore. Like, come on. Um, but to me, I I never, even when I was playing in high school, I I don't ever recall like coaches really putting their hands like on us, like to the besides maybe on the sideline kind of to refocus you, maybe grab on your face mask a tad bit. Um,
Hmm.
but but to me there is there's a difference with way you can get away with that on the practice field. And that's what I was
Yeah.
telling Jamie earlier is my only issue is, does that kind of battering and kind of getting into your player, pulling on his face mask, and that anger, is that at the end of the day going to help your player? And I would say in most cases it's not going to help him.
Mm.
But you know, in practice, and when we were in practice, you know, there was coaches grabbing onto your shoulder pads, pulling on your face mask, getting you to the spot that you needed to be by pulling on your face mask,
Mm-hmm.
getting you there, and kind of grilling you throughout practice, which I don't really take issue of. But when um, I don't know, it's just a little bit of how you respect your players during a game situation. How are you going
Mm.
to actually teach your players? And I don't.
Yeah.
If you watch the whole thing of Jeremy Pruitt on the sideline, like, he should kind of be embarrassed of the way that he acted. Now I know Nick Saban has like kind of been all fired up, and you've seen these fired up moments from Nick Saban, but Jeremy Pruitt actually looked kind of crazy on the
Yeah.
sideline. Like, it was interesting, and so um, I think Jeremy Pruitt really took that game personally. But at the same time, he knew he had a great opportunity that he could possibly take advantage of Tua being out, Alabama being weak, figuring out how to manage an upset win against Alabama, and they did have opportunity. So I mean, um, I see the frustration there. But
Yeah.
my biggest issue is I don't think that type of grilling during a game time situation actually ends up helping your players. Um,
Yeah.
and you can actually see Saban's actually kind of been doing it less, unless something
Mm.
just super bothers him. Then he'll kind of go
Yeah.
off, like he'll turn all red and start shaking. And um, anyways, I don't know. I mean, that's what were kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah. I think first you have to know your players. You have to know, all right, getting physical with them, is this going to help them? Because there's certain players, when you get in their face and you grill them, they shut down. And so you have to know your players. And I don't think he does that if he knows his quarterback can't take that. Now, I'll post a link of to the video of him pulling on the face mask on our social media on Facebook and Twitter, just so everybody can see it. But he doesn't like grab him and just like yank him close. He tugs, like kind of like a
Right,
come on.
right.
So it wasn't. I think that's why a lot of people, when you look up comments and everybody's thoughts on it, is a lot of people didn't have really an issue with it because he didn't grab him and yank him. He just like, come on. And like you said, we're both from an old school mindset where now your relationship with our coaches, we've played football together since the 8th grade. Your relationship with our coaches was always better than mine. I had my face mask pulled down this way, this way. I had a coach throw me to the ground.
But was that in practice or in game?
I've practice, but I've had my face mask pulled on by coaches during games. A lot of it is because I roll my eyes a lot and mouth off. But like I said, your relationship with our coaches was different than mine. Um, but we both still come from that old school style. And so when I saw the video and he just kind of tugs on him, I'm like, that's it? Like, why is this even a big deal? And so I started reading the comments, and there was a couple people like, that has no place in football. Well, I disagree with that. But there were a lot of the comments were just like kind of like me, like there wasn't anything really there to like talk about. And so I mean, it just don't he needs to know where he's at. He needs to know you're on TV. And yeah, the game might not be the time to do that. If you're at practice, whatever, throw him to the ground, kick on him. I don't. It's practice, but you don't do that on live television. Now, if you're trying to talk to him and he keeps walking away, you're the head coach. grab him and pull him to you, and look him man to man in the eyes and say, "Hey, I'm talking. I
Right.
didn't call a quarterback sneak there. I called a run play. You are going to run my offense, or I'm going to find someone that will."
Well, and he did,
That's when you can
and it
get
is
real.
to say he did get benched after that. He didn't play after that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I yeah, I, and also there was a video a week or so back where there was a dad coaching his son, and he was a quarterback, and he basically shoved him to the ground.
Mm,
Like, and that's part of my line of thinking too. Is like, at what does that like what like and like your great point is you got to know your players. You have to know how they
mm,
respond. Uh,
yes.
because knowing me, I mean, it, and some players, if you communicate, they can take criticism really well, and that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Is is football players, you need to take criticism from your coach. Like that's one thing that
Hmm.
has driven me nuts kind of about these players nowadays is there are a lot of players that I talk to that they don't even call coaches like coach anymore. They'll call them by their
Mm,
last name, you know.
hmm.
They'll get away with everything that we would have never gotten away with, you know. And so
No.
there has to be this mutual respect from both player and coach, because you got to be able to communicate um, with your
Yeah.
players. I mean, the great coaches find a way to communicate with their guys and figure out how to do
Hmm.
that. Um,
Hmm.
and that's what makes Nick Saban great. That's what made Bear Bryant great. It's what probably, you know, even though we don't see Bill Belichick communicate that much, but he has to be great at
Hmm.
communicating. he's got to
Yeah.
he's got to communicate in some kind of mumble to win that many Super Bowls. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
where I kind of stand is I personally don't like the whole like shoving your player around, moving the face mask around in game situation. Um,
Hmm.
Practice, like you were saying, we've had it done. I don't care. You got to get them in the spot. You're frustrated. like I get it, but just I don't
Three
know.
hour practices go.
Yeah,
It's long,
yeah,
long 3 hour practices. There's
but
only so much you can take.
that's just me. Is there?
Mm,
But you're right. There's got to be some mutual respect from the player and the coach, and
mm,
um, you know we. But I will say I think Garetano's relationship with Jeremy Pruitt's kind of kind of ruined at this point. But you know who knows? They probably figured out how
I
to
think
make
they're
that.
fine.
Yeah, who knows?
Because I was looking at his reaction, and he didn't react in any way that I was just like, "Oh, he did not like that." Because like, what I started thinking of whenever I was watching that, I'm like, I wonder how the players on like Last Chance U would react to that. Like, they're one of those coaches grabbing them by the face mask. It probably wouldn't go over well.
Yeah,
And so I looked at him, and I looked at that relationship, and I was like, he didn't react negatively. Now, whenever he got benched, he was probably over there like mouthing off, or
ooh,
or he was just sitting over there and
that
just like, okay, I
yeah.
messed up.
Last chance you.
I don't know.
That brings up a great point. We should probably do some reactions to Last Chance You.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
because I
okay, I'm
got a
down.
whole bunch of issues with that show, but I love it.
Yeah,
I love it, but I got
yes,
a whole bunch of issues with that
from
show.
top to bottom,
Yes,
I have yes.
but
Yep. It's safe to say that players today would not last under Coach Creed or Coach Whitehead. Uh,
our high
and
school
anybody
coaches.
watching, anybody that watching that was coached by Coach Creed or Coach Whitehead knows that. I hardly lasted under them, so
That's right. All right. So episode 3 is in the books. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please comment. Let us know what you would love for us to talk about. We definitely want to get some feedback. So definitely please give us some feedback. What you like, what you don't like. We
Mhm.
don't care. We just want some feedback. We want to hear We want some love
Yes.
or some hate. I don't know, which is weird.
Yeah.
Just let us know what you're thinking, like what we need to change
Hmm.
up and things like that. So we just want to keep having fun with this, and we hope that you enjoy the Pipkin and Turnbull
Hmm.
show every week. And we have a lot of fun doing it. Uh,
Yes.
so we'll keep trucking along, and we got a lot of things coming up. Like you said, we got, we'll be looking for Sunday night Packers and Chiefs without a Mahomes.
Hmm.
Got to throw it in there. Throw it in the plug, man.
Yeah.
Let's see what
Yeah.
Alabama does against Arkansas. We'll see. But always got stuff going on this time of year. Best time of the year.
Hmm. That's time. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Thanks, guys, for listening.
All right. We'll see you next week.
See you.